Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat podcast. My name is Amir. Before I get into today's episode, I just want to thank everybody for following the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Also want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. So for today's episode, I want to talk about a report that came out that said that NBA execs believe that Jimmy Butler will most likely stay with the Miami Heat. So Jimmy Butler is up for a contract extension this offseason. On July 7th, he will be eligible for a 2-year contract extension that's worth, I believe, over $110 million or so. And Jimmy Butler and his agent, Bernie Lee, are going to seek that, I'm assuming, as soon as possible. So reports indicated that Jimmy Butler could potentially leave the Miami Heat and request a trade if he does not get this extension. And we all know during Pat Riley's presser a few weeks ago, he mentioned that we don't need to talk about this right now. We haven't visited this conversation with Jimmy Butler yet. So in terms of his extension, we can take a wait and see approach. He didn't say how long they were going to wait, but essentially he said, hey, we could wait till next year to offer this extension. Once again, Jimmy Butler is under a contract for 2 seasons with the Miami Heat. Next season, he'll be making around $42 or $44 million, somewhere in that range. And in 2025, Jimmy's going to have a player option for around 50 or 48 million, excuse me. So the idea here is that the Miami Heat said they want to wait and see, essentially. We don't know how long they want to wait for, but the insinuation was that Pat Riley wants to see if Jimmy Butler can remain healthy, be available, and perform. And if he does perform to Jimmy Butler standards and the Miami Heat standards, then they can revisit this next season and potentially give him some sort of extension. So right now, despite this offseason smoke, we haven't really heard a rebuttal yet from Jimmy Butler. He hasn't really been talking about the extension or hasn't had any remarks or rebuttals to what Pat Riley said, basically in terms of waiting. So there has been smoke, and Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports reported and said a far murkier I can't even say the word, murkier dynamic is that of Jimmy Butler, who's extension eligible in Miami. The Sixers, of course, have been in the Butler business before. He and Joel Embiid maintained a close relationship, and Butler may have been the all-star whom Daryl Morey most often attempted to acquire in Houston, sources said. At this juncture, however, league executives are of the mind Butler will most likely remain with the Heat. So Jimmy Butler's 34 years old. He's going to be 35 at the start of next season, and so it is possible that this is Jimmy's last lucrative contract that he can get in his career. So Jimmy still played pretty well. I mean, he played 62 games or so, or less, actually. I think he played 60 games this season, and his numbers aren't terrible. Like, he hasn't dropped off a cliff. He still averaged like 21 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, 5 assists. They were slightly down from previous seasons, but it's not like he went from 20 points to like 14 points per game. So Jimmy Butler is still effective, and he still can, potentially carry this Miami Heat team in the playoffs. He has just proven that he can't do that during the regular season. He's missed so many regular season games. He doesn't take the regular season series. He does load management. Like in the games that he played last season, the 60 games or whatever, like in 20 of those games, he shot like 10 attempts or less, basically. So he was just out there distributing and not being the Jimmy Butler that we needed to win extra games, where the Miami Heat could have avoided the play-in and could have possibly avoided Jimmy Butler's injury. And they still could be in the playoffs right now. Instead, the 6-seed Pacers somehow made it to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics. So anyway, Jimmy Butler has been, one of the best franchise players in Miami history. Since he's joined this team, he's been the heart and the soul of this Miami Heat team. And he's taken us to 2 finals, but we haven't been able to win a championship. So if Jimmy Butler takes the regular season series and the Miami Heat make some tweaks to this roster, because we've shown that we're undersized not athletic enough, and don't have enough scores to carry us to a championship. If we can adjust those pieces, add some different guys into the mix, possibly get a whale like a Donovan Mitchell. If not Donovan, maybe a Brandon Ingram, Trey Young, DeJounte Murray, whoever it may be, then this Miami Heat team with a healthy Jimmy Butler who takes the regular season serious can become contenders again to actually win a championship. I want nothing more than the Miami Heat to win a championship for Jimmy Butler. I think he deserves it. But this is the 6th year with Jimmy Butler, and the team has been always injured. And I'm not entirely sure what direction the Miami Heat are going to go. They might offer him something like in the 80, $90 million range, but I don't know if that's going to be good enough for Jimmy and his camp. And we don't know what he's going to say next season or this offseason or whatever. They have that conversation about the extension. Um, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason. And I think this is going to be the biggest catalyst for this offseason or even next is where are we going to go with this Jimmy Butler extension? But good to see that execs think that Jimmy Butler is going to stay on the Heat. I want him to be on this team. And I want to win a championship with Jimmy Butler. That's just my opinion. So anyway, that's all I have for today's video. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good one.